Welcome to PLM and Vinyl, the webcast for everyone interested in SAP PLM and surrounding topics. In our show, you will see and hear the latest updates from SAP, CENIT and our partner products, along with some customer interviews. And now meet your hosts, Paul Cassidy and Sascha Schwenker.
Welcome to the next PLM and Vinyl video podcast. Once again, just amazing reaction to the previous ones. We felt we had to quickly get another one out, but we're actually at the SAP SAPPHIRE event in Orlando, Florida, and we're coming off an event yesterday presented by Jeff Crawford from Harris Products Group, Lincoln Electric. We'll talk a little bit about who and what they are, and also give Jeff a full introduction. But Jeff and Sascha were doing a presentation yesterday. Was incredible. Jeff ended up crowd surfing off the stage and out of the room. But seriously, the reaction was really positive. Loads of feedback, loads of questions. So we wanted to talk a little bit about lessons learned and all the good stuff from that. So Sascha, your thoughts on what we'd like to go through today?
Yeah, actually, like Paul said, we had the presentation yesterday. We talked about the project, the implementation timeline, a couple of key topics. And they didn't really carry me out of the room, but I basically walked out of, followed Jeff then.
Yeah, but the man they did carry out of the room. So Jeff, you're IT director at Harris Products Group, a division of Lincoln Electric, who are like world number one in welding equipment and consumables.
Yes.
Yeah, several billion-dollar company.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here with the legendary hosts of PLM and Vinyl. It's my favorite podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, tell us a little bit about Lincoln, headquartered out of Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio, yes, with divisions and plants all over the world.
Yeah.
And I'm with one of the divisions that makes ancillary products, gas flow regulators, torches, tips, brazing alloys, and the like.
Okay. And you've done an SAP PLM project.
We have, with my good friend Sascha here.
Yeah. Yep. So that's most of why we're here today. Jeff, I noticed you brought along your iPod, and you know we have this musical PLM interweaving thing we do.
Yes.
What are you listening to these days?
Well, since I can't carry my vinyl player around, not efficient when you're traveling, I have an iPod. I've got jazz, rock and roll, a little Van Halen, some Chicago, Toto, a broad mix of
eclectic.
Eclectic, yes, very eclectic. And it's an efficient way to take my music anywhere, just as the same as it was with our project, where we're trying to do engineering anywhere.
Ooh, good segue. So, Jeff, question out of the blue. What was the first album you ever bought?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm so old, I've probably forgotten. I would say probably a Maynard Ferguson album.
Wow.
But Paul, any singing right now?
Well, actually, I'm listening to Jesus Christ Superstar again for portability. I didn't bring the vinyl, but let's see. I met an Ohioan, a most amazing man. He had that look you very rarely find, the haunting, hunted kind. Jeff. So, with that said,
let's go into the
put
presentation.
Me on the spot, I came up with something. Let's go into the presentation. We'll slice in some slides as we go along. It should make sense to you, but we have some good stuff to cover.
All right, let's go. Let's start the show here. So Jeff, one of our talking points in our presentation was the original idea or your vision. Can you tell us a little bit more about why did you start the PLM project and what you plan to get out of it?
Sure, be happy to. One of the ideas behind our vision was we wanted to do engineering everywhere, and we wanted to get everybody in engineering on a common tool set, which was SolidWorks as our CAD engine, but then we also decided to use SAP as part of that solution. The project has helped us drive a common engineering database, which was important. We have sister plants that make similar products, so it was also important for us to have them working from the same models, parts, drawings. Also wanted to begin to shorten our time to create new products or modify existing ones. And then one of the things that we didn't originally think about, but it's going to be a big benefit for us, is because all the documents are in SAP, we can now make them available on the shop floor to the people that need them without having to make copies.
Yeah, this was one component of our project, the shop floor viewer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was great with the vision. Let's talk about the different pieces of the solution we implemented. So I remember we had 4 different pieces. Can you tell us a little bit about the meat and greed of our implementation?
Sure. The system is fundamentally supported by the SAP document management module.
Yep.
And that's where all the documents are stored, whether that's a CAD model, a CAD diagram, a work instruction, a quality spec, whatever it is, they're all stored in document management. And as you'll recall, Sascha, that's how we first met.
Yes.
Because originally we were going to do this project.
We met at a conference, didn't we?
We met 5 years ago here at the conference, yes.
Yes. So you need document management as the foundation. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it allows a lot of things to happen because all the documents are in SAP. Whether it's engineering or purchasing needs a drawing to send with a PO, they're all in one place. So that's very important. The next piece that was really important for us is the integration of our CAD engine SolidWorks with SAP. And there we used a tool from Cidion.
Yes.
And what it in essence does is in the SolidWorks desktop, there are add-ins for SAP. So the engineer really never leaves SolidWorks, but yet everything that he or she does is then stored in SAP. We used probably the most important tool, or kind of the heart of it all, was the workflow, which came from CENIT, cenitCONNECT APM. And it allowed us to define the process that we want to use to make changes. But more than that, it's helping us define our whole management of change process, whether it's an engineering diagram or a quality spec or an environmental and safety manual, whatever it happens to be. We now have a defined and known process for how you change those items with approvals.
Yeah, and we have 2 processes set up for you. So what are these 2 processes we are running?
We're running one called product change, which is a change to any of our saleable product.
So this is basically CAD change?
Yes.
Yep.
And then we have the other one is document or process change, which would be for changing a quality spec, changing a work instruction, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay, then the final piece in our solution is shop floor viewer, which is something that you helped us write. It allows easily for a person on the shop floor to scan a production order, which will bring up the part and then all the relevant documents associated with that part. So that's what allows us not to have to make copies of drawings, test specifications, work instructions, and send them out with the shop packet. The operator can easily see them online. As part of that also, we watermark and stamp our drawings, which most companies do, and there's a product from Seal Systems that does that for us. So when you check in the final released version of a part, it automatically gets stamped and watermarked by that tool.
So this basically prevents that we have unreleased drawings going out into the shop floor. And so what we have basically is a large tag, not released or in prototype or something like this, so that it's obvious for everybody that this is not a final engineering release drawing.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think on the shop floor, I think this good to mention here is that on the shop floor we only provide release drawings. So there's no ability for a shop floor worker to see in somehow in work or inactive or non-release drawing.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Great.
So Jeff, what we see here is a simplified view of the workflow. Actually, for the presentation, what we did basically is we merged your product change and your document change process, all the common pieces kind of in one slide to explain it to the audience at the ASUG. Can you tell us a little bit more about the components of these 2 workflows we are running?
Sure. We really have 2 phases. We have a request phase and an execution phase. And to state it simply, the request phase is where someone submits a request to make a change, and we decide, is this something that we want to do?
Yep.
And so people will review it and say, yes, we want to do it, and then we will approve going forward into the execution phase where we actually make the change to the relevant document. What we find is that there are different people that need to be involved in changes to different documents. So we set up the workflow to be flexible. We have some tasks that occur in sequence and other ones where we might want 3 or 4 people to look at a document, and they can do that all simultaneously. So the tool is flexible, and it enabled us to structure the workflow in the way that we actually do business.
Yeah. So this is what we enabled here for example, for quality, manufacturing, engineering. These are the tasks you can basically get into the workflow or out of the workflow based on your need for this one process. Is this right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And then on the execution side, what are you doing here at the master data management task? Because this is very important in the execution. When we create new objects, like new documents, we most likely create a material master. Is this the task where you create the material master, or how is this working in your company?
Yes, that master data management, like most companies that use SAP, is where you take care of the master data. We knew that the tool, for instance, the integration with our CAD engine, you can generate a material master automatically. We chose not to do that because we wanted to control it. I think maybe at some point in the future, as we become more experienced with the solution, we may say, okay, we'll let SAP do that for us. But for now, when there is a change that requires modification of master data, that we have a task set up in the execution phase to handle that.
Yeah, and you see here, this is an optional task as well. So if the workflow does not demand to modify or create a material master, you can just get this in or out of the workflow.
Right.
All right. Anything else to mention here, for example, on change validation, manufacturing or so?
Well, we have a multiple level approval process, and one of the things that we do after the change is made, we may need to run pilot pieces, do a pilot run, so we have a task for that. But then the final step in any case is you have a final approval, and it's at that point that the change document becomes released and then is available to anybody in the company.
Oh, great. All right, we just talked about the workflow and how the workflow is organizing the different tasks. I remember we did something to the status network also with the workflow. Can you explain us what's the relation between the document status network and the workflow?
Yes, the document status network is the different statuses that the document goes through as it's being changed.
Basically the majority of the document.
Yes. So we always start work and then we go in work, and then when somebody has made the change, the status changes to check, and then the checker would check it, and then there's a final approval. What's interesting about using the workflow tool is, yes, there are specific SAP transactions where you can go in and change the status, but using workflow, that happens automatically as you move through the various activities in the workflow.
So that means when the engineer is releasing their workflow task, the workflow automatically changes the status, for example, from in work to check, and then the checker gets it, and then when the checker is checking all his 20 documents, he doesn't need to flip every single one of them into the next status. When he's performing the workflow task and say, okay, I approve my task, then again the system takes over. Okay, that's very good. Is this helpful in the? How is this appreciated by your team and by the engineering folks?
I'm not sure they fully understand the benefit, because having never had to go in and manually change the status,
because they saw it right from the get-go.
Yeah, they don't. This is all invisible to them. I mean, they understand the concept of the status network, but the changes occur automatically, so they don't have to make them themselves. Yeah. So it just happens.
Okay, so Jeff, we had a conversation before. I'd like to kind of bring us around to that. There's people, process, technology. We've talked a lot about technology and process. Let's step back a little bit and talk about people and process. Okay. And you talked about in the presentation change management. So
yes,
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. What's the buzz?
It's really hard to ignore him, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, let's talk about it.
All right. He's a little bit creepy. I don't
Yes.
know why you hang out with him. Anyway, so management of change. People said, well, is PLM just about engineering? And the answer is no, it's much more than that. Businesses, whether they like it or not, need a defined and controlled process for making changes of any kind. Otherwise, there's chaos. And we had a process that we used in the one plant where we've been implementing lately. They had a very informal process.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happens, people do whatever they want, whenever they want. That's not good. So you need the process, but also nowadays a lot of customers want to audit your processes, or at least understand, do you have a defined quality process? Do you have a defined process for making changes to your product?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they're concerned about that. And if you don't have something like this, then you fail an audit like that. Or say it's an ISO audit. They're always looking for processes. So with this system, with the workflow and the process that it embodies, you can state with certainty, we have a defined process, this is how it works, we all use it, and here's how we derive value from that.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first part of our interview with Jeff Crawford from Harris Products Group. Please also watch and listen the second part of the interview where we talk about learning points, benefit and future possibilities, along with data migration and key decision on the workflow design.